First question all the way in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur in KL. This is from Bernice in KL. And she asks, it's really hard to meet people, especially now during the pandemic. Usually we meet people in class, but since it's all online, how would we make connections? Okay, and this is a good question. Why? Because now we're getting into territory we've never been before. And because of these like movement control orders and these lockdowns, people are not able to go out. A lot of schools are closing. Some are opening them up, but a lot of schools are actually closing down and they're all online. So what happens, we lose that physical connection, right? So there's a couple things that we can do. Like for instance, let's just say there's a group project, right? I know in some areas like Malaysia, group projects, the good thing about it is you can actually still meet physically as long as it's a small group. I know in some areas, right? And you're like, oh wow, yeah, that's true. And I would definitely suggest go out and meet each other, even though it might feel like a hassle. If you have an opportunity, go and meet each other, right? Nice, comfortable setting, talk with each other, because it's hard for us to make connections if we don't talk. And it's hard for us, even more harder, if we're not literally meeting with each other. There's some countries where you can't, which means what would I suggest? Because you can't physically meet, if there are certain people that you do know, right? Yes, of course, you can meet them not every day, but as much as you can, but have time to talk with them. But one thing I do suggest, because it's really hard to find people to talk to, especially on campus, there are tons of campus activities. And I know many campuses are having talks, many campuses are having these group meets on Zoom or online. And these are all people that want to meet other people also. And I do suggest checking your schools to see what clubs are doing, what other activities there are, right? Because that's one of the best ways to meet people without being awkward, just like going on like, hey, I heard you go to Sunway, I saw it in your profile, you want to be friends? It's kind of weird, right? It's kind of like, that's so weird, who is this person, right? No, what you want to do is what? Find a place, like a club, right? Find an activity you can go to, right? And interesting thing is, tomorrow, I speak online for a club in Monash, and I'm talking about healthy relationships, right? And they invited me to speak, and they gather students to come together, and I'll talk to them about healthy relationships. It'll be a time of question and answer, and it's a place where a lot of people are able to meet each other, even though we can't physically be there. So especially on campus, there are going to be plenty of opportunities for you to join clubs and activities. Look into the announcement board. Find out in your school with your student government or student council, I'm not sure what you call it here, and discuss them and say, hey, where can I find a place where I can meet other people who are first year, second year, third year, or Christian clubs, or this type of club, or this type of club, or a game club, whatever it is, right? And this is some of the good ways you're able to meet people without being awkward, because everyone's going there for the exact same reason, okay? Thank you, Bernice, for that question up in KL. Really, really good question, because a lot of people are asking about that kind of stuff. Let's go next to Jenny in Singapore. Jenny in Singapore is asking, I don't understand how I can have a boyfriend and still be lonely. Okay, cool. So that's a good question. So how am I still lonely even though I have a boyfriend? Okay, not me, I'm talking about Jenny, right? So how am I still lonely even have a boyfriend? Okay, so then we have to think about this. We're gonna take a look at the opposite first. First, we have to see that it is possible that people who have many people around them can still feel lonely. Why? Loneliness, remember, is not about anything physical or how many people are around you, or just because someone is next to you doesn't mean that you're lonely or not. Remember that loneliness is a perception. It's the way you perceive, right? And one of the problems I've seen when I've counseled a lot of students that have boyfriends and girlfriends but still feel that loneliness is because in their hearts, in their minds, they thought that, oh, because I'm lonely, I need someone there, then I won't be lonely. What does that mean? It means they didn't really understand what loneliness is. They don't understand what it is. And that's why they thought, if I just have someone there, I'm not going to be lonely. But they find out that even though someone's there, they're still lonely, right? Their perception is still like, oh my gosh, if they find out this about me, will they still like me? Or does this person really even like me that much? Remember, it's a perception of what you think of them. Oh, if I don't have a boyfriend, oh, then I'll be lonely. Yes, some people are like that. They think that because there's someone, if that person leaves, I'm going to be lonely when they're already lonely, right? The whole purpose is getting a boyfriend and girlfriend is not the answer to get rid of loneliness. It's not the answer. It's about connections, real connections, right? It is. It's really about connections more than anything else. Do you have that intimate connection where that one person you can talk to? Do you have that intimate connection where you can talk to them and say, oh yeah, that's so true, and you can kind of open up yourself even more? Do you have that? Do you have that relational connection, and do you have that collective connection? It's something that's really important that all of us have to understand, right? Yeah, it is very, very possible. That's why, think about the song, I don't know if you guys know this song from Michael Bublé. It's called Home, right? I'm surrounded by people, like so many people, right? But I just want to go home, right? I want to go home to the people I'm connected to the most more than anything else, right? So I hope, Jenny, that helps you out. That, yeah, it is very, very possible to be lonely even though you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, or someone next to you, okay? So let's move on to question. Next question is Rani. Rani in the Philippines. Question. How can I encourage someone who is always lonely? Okay, so like I said, it's something that you have to actually be very, very wary of, okay? I'm going to be very honest about this because like I said before, loneliness is very contagious. It's super contagious. Like I said, if you have, amongst your friends, you have someone who's always lonely, you have more than 50% chance of becoming lonely too, even if you're someone who wasn't lonely in the beginning. Tell me that's crazy, right? Which means that encouraging people who are always lonely, which means good, encourage them. But don't encourage them like this. Hey man, you're not lonely. Hey, don't worry, people like you. Nah, right? Because then you're making them think about how lonely they are, right? Just make sure that you encourage them in lots of things in their life. More than just, I'm always here for you, like these types of things, right? Especially if it's someone, when it comes to like you have a collective connection, one way you can help people with a collective connection is having faith, having a church to go to, having a good community. And this thing also, having a good collective connection actually makes people less lonely. Actually, there's a stat, it's in America right now. They say that single women are one of the most loneliest people in all of America. It's one of the loneliest groups. However, if they go to church every Sunday, just once a week, I believe it's something like they have like a 30% chance of not being alone. They're 30% less lonely just going to church every Sunday, right? And that's why you're providing a collective connection for them. So don't just like say bring them to church, but you need to connect them. You really need to connect them. Share in the good times. Ask them how their day was, how things are going. Share with them, right? Have that relational connection with them too. But you want to make sure there's a connect. Don't just bring them to church and then just send them home at the end, right? Because there's no real connection there. So, Rani, encourage them. Do lots of things with them, but also give them a lot of connections. Like you can be their connection, but give them a collective connection, something bigger, right? And that's why a lot of people, as crazy as that sounds, just going to church once a week, it actually literally helps. Why? It's a collective connection. Okay, thanks, Rani, over there in the Philippines, which means we move into Grace from the Philippines. All right, Grace from the Philippines. Question. In Grace, it says, some people get easily attached and even become so dependent on others because of their background. Came from a broken family. Okay, so sometimes they get too clingy. How do you handle friends like that? Okay, so it's good that you recognize when people are too clingy, but it's good that you are also understanding where it comes from, right? We have to understand that, yeah, it's true. It does come from somewhere, and there's a reason why they're like that. Because remember, if we don't understand that, because I think that's a great thing that you, that Grace, that you understand where this person is coming from, broken family. Which means that they are naturally going to be more clingy. For instance, someone grew up without a father will either cling to guys or they'll completely shut them out. And if we don't understand this, it's very hard for us to deal with them too, because we're like, why the heck are they like this? Why are they like this, right? So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we want to have them to have multiple connections, right? Make sure that they have multiple connections. Of course, there might be more clingy to you, But of course, we want to always be able to give them a lot more connections also, that they'll have multiple people to look at, right? And, you know, it's really unfortunate that there are these broken families that cause like these psychological hurt, that they do get more clingy. But you have to think of the alternative. Like, what if they cling to someone who's terrible, right? Like, that's one thing. As someone, like for me as a person of faith, I would rather have them cling on to someone of faith who is good first, and slowly get them, you know, for myself, I would get them try to connect more to God, help them out in this way. But on the flip side is, but what if they cling to someone who doesn't believe? What if they cling to someone who's unhealthy and they have unhealthy habits that makes them start to drink or do all these other bad habits that I think that it wouldn't be healthy for them? If that's the case, honestly, you have to look at it from the large perspective. And for myself, because I'm a man of faith, if I look at the alternative, I would rather have it this way than them going off somewhere else, right? And being with the wrong people, right? And it's something that we have to be very, very, of course, we don't want to just let it come all, you know, like complete clinginess, right? But we have to manage it well with ourselves, how much we can handle. But we also need to make sure there's multiple connections too. Because if there's multiple connections, then they can go to someone else too when, you know, when you're tired or when you're busy or whatnot. So, yeah, you got to kind of look at the big picture too sometimes, because I know some instances where it was either they cling to people at church or they cling to like a very toxic relationship that's just going to hurt them. Okay, so I hope that helps you out, Grace. Let's go into our question. Okay, we're going to go with the question of the day. Now, I don't know how to pronounce this, but I'm going to pronounce it my best. Okay, so this is a Harry Potter quiz. Harry Potter quiz is, who plays Hermione? Hermione Granger, forget it, Hermione. I'm just going to call her Hermione. Hermione Granger in the Harry Potter movies. Who is the actress that plays Hermione Granger in the Harry Potter movies? All right, so I have a number that I picked right here, and once I'm going to put up the number, whoever gets the right answer with this number will get the free bubble tea this week. All right, so keep writing your answers down. There's only one actress that plays whatever it says. Okay, so let's move to the last question of the day. Last question is in Indonesia. This is Tani in Jakarta. Tani in Jakarta says, I have a friend who enjoys, let's just see. I have a friend who enjoys being alone. There's the next question. There you go. But lately, it's become more of an isolation, right? What can I do to help this person? Okay. So one of the things that happens, especially when it comes to, I talked a little bit before this about self-preservation mode. When people get really lonely, they reach out, but they have all these negative experiences, and then they go into isolation. Self-isolation, right? And this is not a very good sign, because in their minds, they're probably struggling a lot, and they're going to have anxiety, they're going to have depression, they're going to have a lot of different of these mental, not illnesses, but we said mentally they're going to be not in good shape. And this is why we really have to think about this. Okay, so how can I help someone like this, right? If these people really need contact, I do suggest make sure you contact them, even if it's just by text in the beginning, and slowly get them to come out more and more, or go visit their house. Yeah, go visit their house, go see how they're doing, because sometimes, especially right now in the pandemic time, during the lockdown, yeah, it's there was already issues about loneliness already before the pandemic, and this is just exacerbating it, making it really huge. And this is why I do so. One of the things that a health expert suggests is every day text or call 3 people. Every day, just talk to them, see how they're doing, talk to them, right? Because sometimes people just need that connection, and they feel lonely that they're gonna have a hard time with it anyways, right? So I really hope that find some way to connect with them. If there's someone who likes to play video games, some people like video games, then go play video games online with them first, then go meet up with them, or maybe go to like an internet cafe together and play games together, but finding some way so that they get some physical interaction, right? And it's something that we really have to understand, that what they're going through is real, and we want to, don't think of it as a quick fix. Like, no, I called them 5 times, but they never did anything. Nah, some people are really, really hurting. So you just got to keep in touch with them. Just text them every day, see how's it going, right? Don't be like intrusive, but you want to be that person who's always checking up on them, right? Making sure they're doing okay, maybe even every 2 days or whatever it is, right? But just know that don't expect everything to change that quickly. It's not going to change that quick. And we have to realize that this is something that we have to really empathize with these people, knowing that they are going through a lot of pain, and they are people that need some help, and we can give it to them slowly and a little bit every day. I suggest you also do some research too, finding good ways to connect with these people. Okay, Tani, thank you so much for that question. I hope that you can help these people, help your friend that is kind of isolating themselves, right? So thank you so much, guys, everyone. Awesome questions today. Thank you so much for joining us here on this Bubble Talk. Everyone else, thank you so much for joining today for today's talk about single loneliness. No, they do not compute, and we have to be those. If you came a little bit late, you're gonna have to watch this all over again, okay? Everyone have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys again next week. Bye-bye.